Hey everybody! Welcome to CAF WarbirdTube, the show where we talk about World War II, aviation, history, and so much more. WarbirdTube is produced by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences. The CAF began the Warbird movement more than 65 years ago, and thanks to the support of individuals like you, we continue to grow strong. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and now our host, Steve Buss. Thanks for watching and keep 'em flying.
Good evening and welcome to CAF WarbirdTube. This is episode number 156 of WarbirdTube, and tonight we're going to take a preview of the 2024 Legacy Tour, where two CAF aircraft will return to Normandy for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. We'll talk about that throughout the show tonight. But before we get started, as always, please do us a favor if you haven't already done so, and I know many of you have, and I do appreciate it. But just take a second to like, share, or subscribe and follow us. And if you do subscribe on YouTube, make sure you click that bell icon, and you'll be notified of new episodes of WarbirdTube when they go live. WarbirdTube is made possible by the Commemorative Air Force. To find out more about the CAF, our events, our aircraft, local units, or how you can be a part of the fun, just visit our website, commemorativeairforce.org. Now, as you're watching tonight, if you have some questions, all you have to do is type those in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them either during the program or before we sign off. So with that, we are going to kick off our 2024 Legacy Tour. And to start things out, we're going to talk with Eric Zipkin. And he's with the D-Day Squadron and also the C-47 Placid Lassie, which I'm sure many of you have seen through the years. And Eric is also a CAF member, and he's also currently the Chief of Staff for the Commemorative Air Force. This is an interview that we recorded just a couple of days ago, talking about the return to Normandy. Eric, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. I see you're in a pretty familiar setting, an airplane hangar. Must be pretty comfortable.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into aviation, and briefly, how you hooked up with the C-47 Placid Lassie.
Yeah, so I'm a professional pilot. I run a charter company in the Northeast, and I've always been interested in warbirds. Actually, my first director of maintenance owned a C-45 and a T-6, and I was fortunate enough to have him teach me how to fly those airplanes and share them with me. Several years on, I had a client who made the phone call that many Warbird pilots dream of, and something along the lines, "I've gone and bought a DC-3. Would you like to go get type rated?" And I thought about that for about a nanosecond, and I said, "Where do I show up?" And I went to learn to fly the DC-3, and then ultimately help this client and now a very good friend of mine get an airplane flying for the 75th anniversary of the DC-3 type back in 2010. And that airplane, as we were pulling it out of the weeds to fly to Oshkosh, we realized that it was a D-Day veteran aircraft. Ultimately, the airplane that we now know as Placid Lassie, and actually was originally known as Placid Lassie when she was in her wartime course. That was back in 2010, and in 2014, I received a phone call from a group of parachutists in Normandy saying, "We understand you have a D-Day veteran aircraft, and we'd like to invite you to Europe to jump paratroopers, reenacting paratroopers for the 70th anniversary of D-Day." And I said, "Absolutely, we're in." So, and the only reason I said I'm in is because I didn't know any better. And 3 months later, this was in late January of 2014, and in early May of 2014, we were kicking off across the Atlantic as a single ship to England and then ultimately to Normandy. And it was really an extraordinary experience, but we were only one of only two C-47 DC-3 type aircraft that came from North America to participate in what was an extraordinarily momentous occasion, and clearly very meaningful to the English, the French, and really everyone in that area. So after all was said and done, and we were celebrating, licking our wounds and celebrating our successes, I made a vow, probably holding a glass of scotch in my hands, saying we're going to come back for the 75th, and we're going to come back with a full squadron of aircraft. And there was the nexus of what has now become the D-Day Squadron, which in 2019 was a group of 15 aircraft that from North America that went to England and Normandy to celebrate the 75th anniversary. Building on that success, we're now going back for the 80th anniversary, the effort that's now known as the Legacy Tour 24. And both in 2019 and now in 2024, literally less than a month from, actually 29 days, I'm reminded that from today we'll be leaving. We will be joined by several aircraft from the Commemorative Air Force and several aircraft from other organizations in really a true effort of equals and partnership amongst the Warbird community to participate and honor not only the D-Day invasion, but this year we'll also be honoring the 75th anniversary of the Berlin airlift. So it's really it's an extraordinary honor and really a great effort, and one that I feel like I've just been swept up in it.
Yeah, for quite a few years now. When you went the first time, and you thought, well, this will be easy, right? It's North Atlantic crossing. It happens every day. It happened during the war. It was a lot of airplanes that made that trip. Was there a point in that first trip where you kind of thought, what did I get myself into?
There were many points when I thought, what did I get myself into? It is at once a very straightforward undertaking, but it is a highly complex undertaking. It is there are many moving parts. There are many elements of it that are that we take for granted. There's so many things of aviation here in North America that we take for granted that just don't exist. I think the time when I really thought, what did I get myself into, is first time I flew an approach into Narsarsuaq, which is the known also as Bluey West 1, the refueling spot in the southern tip of Greenland. And we're flying through ice-laden clouds with ice hanging off the propellers, and I'm wondering, well, if we don't see the airport here in Narsarsuaq, our nearest alternate is 300 miles away. So let's hope we see the airport where we're at.
And in a similar vein, were there also some times when you had an opportunity to reflect on what that mission would have been like in the 1940s during World War II, and the difference in equipment and preparations?
Yeah, not a day goes by, not a moment goes by, anyone along the steps where I just have more and more appreciation for what was accomplished during the war, and really on almost every level. Navigation is probably the most obvious. We carry more navigation capability in our phones than we do in the entire squadron of aircraft, including that would go across the Atlantic. Weather reporting, communication not only kind of in process, radio, satellite phones and everything, but just communication amongst people. The fact that we're able to get online and see each other from thousands of miles away and have communicate and speak quickly and easily by email. I mean, all of those elements, all of those things were done manually in World War II, and they were able to move thousands upon thousands of aircraft and people effectively, across miles and miles and time zones. It really is extraordinary to see.
Oh, good. With the D-Day Squadron itself, now you've kind of brought all the aircraft operators together, but it's up to each individual airplane to be able to pay their way to make it across and back. But you're also helping with a lot of the logistics and some of the groundwork that needs to go into all of this.
Yeah, the D-Day Squadron is really, it's a unique organization. It's really a mutual support organization, and so the D-Day Squadron is kind of a clearinghouse of information, largely, and a kind of a platform for communication amongst the various operators. Be it CAF, which I've become much more involved with as a result of the Normandy trips and my involvement with the D-Day Squadron. Now I'm general staff, I'm actually chief of staff now, and so I'm kind of all in. But so the D-Day Squadron really, in my mind, is a template for kind of type-specific or mission-specific collaboration amongst the entire Warbird community. So yes, each individual airplane is raising their own money. It's about $150,000 to $200,000 direct operating costs to get to and from Europe, and then we're supporting each other, both moral support and logistical support.
Very good. Now that you've done this, you've made the trip twice. Is there something that is still on your must-do list when you go over this time?
Get there. Well, actually, my must-do list this time is I will be flying over the Atlantic with my 19-year-old son, who just got his multi-engine rating, and so I'll have the opportunity to do an Atlantic crossing with in a DC-3 with my son. So that's probably my biggest bucket list check mark for this time around.
That's awesome. And again, you mentioned not only the Normandy anniversary, but also the Berlin airlift. And how did that play into this?
Well, so interestingly, it wasn't really on our radar in 2019. Right. The organizers of the event in 2019 was really very much about Normandy and D-Day, and they said, oh, at the end, afterwards, we're going to Germany to celebrate the Berlin airlift. And we said, okay, well, they're buying the gas, so we'll go and we'll fly and be an interesting thing. And I was really dumbstruck by the significance and the importance the German people put in the events after the war and the Berlin airlift. Really, how we rescued Western Germany and Western Europe from Soviet domination. And when we arrived in Germany, the welcome was something that I could not have foreseen, and we expect the same, even more so now that it's the 75th anniversary. The 75 seems to get a lot of attention with people, but there's an entire generation of Germans who owe their success and really their very existence to the efforts of the Allies after the war. And it was really also very neat to be kind of coming in war and leaving in peace.
Yes.
Starting with the D-Day invasion, and then ultimately being peacemaker in a humanitarian effort after the fact.
If people need more information or want more information about the D-Day Squadron and to keep up with everything that's happening, how can they find out more?
Best thing is to start with our website. I mean, we're online all over the place, but it's DDay80.org, and you can keep up to date with everything that we're doing and all of our efforts, because not only do we go to Europe, but we every 5 years, whether we need to or not. We also we're also throughout the airshow community and a lot of educational efforts throughout the country.
Excellent. And sign up for the newsletter so you can get like Eric said, you can get the latest news. Eric Zipkin, thank you very much for being with us today, and wish you much success in the coming month and with the crossing and the reenactments, and then of course the return trip home.
All right, thank you, Steve, and I look forward to telling you all about it.
Sounds good. Thank you. And we'll pick things up now. Joining us from the Central Texas Wing in San Marcos, Texas, Andy Magg and Mark Davis.
Howdy.
There's Mark.
All right.
Gentlemen, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. As Eric just mentioned, we are counting down the days until you depart. But before we do that, Mark, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the project and made the trip 5 years ago.
My background is not with, so that's all brothers with the Central Texas Wing of the Commemorative Air Force. And I'm actually a member of the Highland Lake Squadron, which is a longtime C-47 operator. So when the trip came up for That's All Brother, they had basically just recently acquired the airplane and got it flying, and they really didn't have a lot of experience in the crew chief and paratrooper operations. So they asked me to come help with that aspect of the mission. So I joined them and did all the cross-channel jumps and all the work from basically England and France.
Okay. And Andy, how about you?
For me, I joined the CAF back in 2016 with the Central Texas Wing, and early on while I was there, someone was like, "Yeah, we're going to be getting a C-47, but not just a C-40. You're getting That's All Brother, which is this historically significant plane." And various things happened, and I ended up kind of volunteering to be sort of like the logistical trip lead for our aircraft back in 2019. So I also trained to become a pilot in it as well, and got to participate in the trip last time, and look forward to doing it again. But like Mark said, we were kind of brand new to this, and we were really fortunate to have people like Mark, Tom Travis, who he had flown Ready for Duty for many years. He was one of our original instructors as well. And so our ability to fly the plane was really, a story about how the greater community of the CAF came together to make that all happen. And that came from all the people who originally sponsored it, Dan and Doug and Jordan and lots of people like that. And they all helped us, get the plane there and back safely, which was fantastic.
Well, if Andy and Mark look a little familiar, especially Andy, they've been guests before on the show, and you touched on it just briefly, and I'd be remiss if we didn't point out to, assuming that there's maybe someone in the audience who doesn't know the history of That's All Brother, it was the lead C-47 of the main aerial invasion on D-Day. It was the airplane, it was the #1 airplane, 800 airplanes behind it with 14,000 paratroopers. And I know for those who are sticklers on history, technically not the first one because the Pathfinders went in advance, but this is the very first airplane of that major armada. And we've got a couple of videos, one that talks about the actual finding of the lineage of the airplane, and talks about then the history and the restoration and all those things. And we'll leave the links for those videos in the comments, or in the comment section, so that if you want to check it out, you can do that as well. When you started thinking about logistics 5 years ago, this is something that had been done before, but not with as many airplanes as went for the 75th anniversary. So you had a little bit of a roadmap, but what was the learning curve like to first of all get this new airplane, and now we're going to fly it across the Atlantic?
It was pretty steep. Thankfully, we were not the first people who had ever tried to fly across the Atlantic in a 75-year-old airplane. So that was nice. We had a lot of help. Eric put a lot of help in getting us there, and really a lot of credit to the D-Day Squadron to really making it possible to do things that would be very hard for individual operators to do on their own. And we had help more locally as well. One of the people who hangs out at our wing a bunch, people may know him as JD. He had flown one of the B-25s over for the filming of Catch-22, and he provided a wealth of really useful information for us as well. So, again, thankfully, the Warbird community is small. We're tight, and we help each other out. So we were able to get a lot of good advice, and the trip in 2019 went extremely smoothly.
Well, I remember reading some of the logistic things that went into it, something that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but when you do think of it, it's like, well, of course, a spare engine, because what happens? What if, right? Yep. What were some of the other sort of what ifs that went into the pre-planning, and then the staging of it, because all that material had to be moved in front of the airplanes, right, both there and back?
Yeah, you carry a good chunk of spares with you in the airplane. You want basically one of every engine accessory, one of each type of cylinder. There's 2 different types of cylinders that go on the engines. And then there were things we didn't have, which we really wish we did. And that was another advantage of traveling with all the other airplanes, because we borrowed lots of stuff as well, which, again, strength in numbers, and it's really wonderful to have company with you as part of the trip. So, but yeah, you need a lot of the logistics on the maintenance side. Mark can probably speak to it much better than I can, but you need to you're carrying hundreds of pounds of parts with you. Just in case, especially like the one thing you really don't want to do is break in Greenland. Almost everywhere else we can get, stuff relatively quickly. If something breaks and you're in Narsarsuaq, it's going to be a little while.
Well, first of all, it's hard to even pronounce the word of the city, but yeah. So
Yes.
Mark, go ahead and weigh in on some of your thoughts.
Well, yeah, no, he's absolutely right. So, so when we flew this airplane, it was, for all practical purposes, a new airplane. And that you think is a good thing, but there's also risk in there, because whenever you do maintenance, you fix something, you build something new. The worst time to fly an engine is when it's been freshly overhauled. So there's always some risk there that, you just don't know what's going to happen until you do it. So yeah, you need to be prepared for all these eventualities. Parts wise, there's certain things that, that is a no-go item, like a carburetor or a magneto. You have to have spares, or like you said, you're going to get stuck in. And I don't know if FedEx flies into Greenland, but getting things there is, could be very challenging as well. Luckily, we did very well. The only thing I had to do is replace a brake on one of the wheels in France. And that was the only really significant maintenance that we had to do. So thankfully,
Yes.
And we had a spare brake too.
There you go. When we look at the route, this is pretty similar to what would have been flown in World War II. How long did the flight take?
Yeah, we spent one for the historical sticklers. That actually back in 1944, this isn't the route that Tab would have taken, because it went over so early in the season. It would have actually gone south off the bottom of this map and through Brazil, Ascension Island, and then to Liberia. And so this is the route that many aircraft took, especially if they were flying later in the season. This route to get to Prestwick took 4 days, 3 days of flying and 1 day off. So we went from Oxford to Goose Bay in a day, and then we went in 1 day. Again, it may be superstition more than anything. We did not want to overnight in Narsarsuaq, because if you get stuck in Narsarsuaq, you're going to be there for a while. So we flew from Goose Bay to Narsarsuaq in the earlier part of the day, and flew into, actually we flew to Keflavik because we arrived so late. We were the last plane that went through in the day. And we got there so late that the Reykjavik airport had closed for its curfew. That closes at, I think, 11 p.m. their local time. So it's basically midnight, but the interesting thing is there's no nighttime in Iceland at that time. So it's, the sun is set, but you're still in civil twilight. So you can actually still see everything, very well, even at that time of night. So, but yeah, it was good. The one interesting logistical thing is in Narsarsuaq, there is one fuel truck. It holds about 600 gallons. And each plane going through needs about 600 gallons of gas. So you're using almost all of the fuel in the truck. And after they fill you up, they have to go back to the fuel farm. They have to wait 30 minutes for the fuel to settle. It takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours between aircraft.
Wow.
And so we could only put 4 or 5 aircraft through a day. And so when all those planes, in 2019, with all the planes coming over, we had to stagger between days. We were really fortunate. We went the first day. The forecast they didn't think was going to be good. It was, we had to put sunscreen on in Greenland. It was beautiful and sunny and almost 70 degrees, and the wind was barely blowing, and it was a lot harder for some of the crews that came after us on the later days.
How many aircraft are going for this trip?
There are 5 coming from the U.S. In total. So it's a slimmer group. And then we have, I think, another 4 or 5 joining from Europe as well. So it'll be a healthy contingent. And we're looking forward to having another great event in England, France, and Germany.
All right, you've done this once before, right? But after you've done it, you came back home, you thought about everything that happened. What are the things that you thought last time you said, if I ever go back, I want to make sure I do X? Mark, we'll start with you.
So I've seen all that you can see of Normandy from 1,000 feet outside of a jump door. So when we jump, I ride in the back, and I've got an open door there, and I'm 5 feet from it. Yeah. What I've never done is experience anything in Normandy other than going to our lodging, going to the airport, because the crew chiefs are the first there, and we're the last to leave. So we drove to the airport, we did all our work, and then we drove back to our lodging. I didn't see anything in Normandy. So I need to go back when it's not crazy and go to the beaches. All these things, I've seen the beaches from 1,000 feet. I want to go actually experience it on the ground. So that's the thing that I want to do.
Okay.
For me, I got to do a lot in 2019. Of the things I didn't do that I'm looking forward, hopefully, to being able to do this time. The June 6th flyover, that was my day off. We were rotating crews, and flew on the 5th, flew over the channel, and looking forward to hopefully getting to fly on the 6th itself. And I think we're planning to do some jump operations on the 6th. And again, I think tentatively the plan is we're going to do the flight as part of the presidential ceremony as well, again, which is a very touching thing to be able to do.
Yes. How many, you mentioned multiple crews, how many crews do you have for the airplane?
Broadly speaking, we have the trip broken down into 4 segments.
Okay.
And we did last time as well. Getting the plane over to Europe is one. And then the England part is the second. The France chunk is the third. And then we kind of combined it. There's the Germany segment is a lot shorter this time. So there's really only one weekend event at Wiesbaden in Germany. And then it's not continuing on to Berlin or other places in Germany. So that's going to be that combined with getting the airplane home is going to be, so it's going to be a little bit shorter trip for us this time. But we're going to cover it with 4 crews. It was, we did a much longer segment. England and France was the same segment for us. So the people doing that were there for a good while.
Very good. And we've got a website that if folks want to keep up with what's going on with That's All Brother, they can follow the mission. You've got that commemorativeairforce.org/pages/DDay. That will give you the schedule and keep up to date on what's happening. Let's see, when you look at that schedule, May 13th through June 27th, it's a pretty action-packed couple of weeks.
It is. It's it'll be a good solid 6 weeks of fretting every day about how's that plane doing, and making sure the crews are happy and well taken care of. So
very good. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and you're going to stick around for our question and answer session later on. But right now we're going to see That's All Brother in action. There's 2 video clips that I hope you will enjoy. The first one is from the Wings Over Dallas air show, and you'll actually see paratroopers coming out the back of That's All Brother, and you'll see sort of what Mark sees as they're going out, and then kind of an historic video clip. That's the That's All Brother landing in Prestwick, England, for the very first time since World War II. So enjoy the videos.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. And our next guest coming up, Chris Volpe, who's with the DFW wing in Lancaster, Texas. Chris, great to have you on the show.
Great to be here, Steve. Thanks.
Well, here we have Ready for Duty, and the R4D, Ready for Duty, has been on the CAF manifest for quite a few years. Do you remember when the wing obtained the airplane?
I can't give you a date, but it was 1981.
Okay. So you had it 1981, so you had it for a couple of years, and then the folks in the wing actually made a trip across the Atlantic with the R4D in 1985.
That's right. The DFW wing got it in 1981, and they were really excited to have a brand new C-47, and we're going to paint it green and put D-Day stripes on it and do all that stuff. And then they started fishing around inside the airplane and finding some things that kind of shouldn't be there, and started going through the paperwork, and lo and behold, it was an R4D. So they made a kind of a seminal decision, and I'm glad they made the one they did, which was, let's stick with the legacy of the airplane, and she's an R4D, and that this is actually the Atlantic paint scheme for the R4D that you're seeing here. The Pacific often had the gray and the white flipped to represent the different weather conditions. The Atlantic is not known for its crisp blue water and clear sunny skies. So, but in 1985, she was the first CAF airplane to cross the Atlantic again in modern times, and she went to Europe, and specifically the Netherlands, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first maiden flight of a DC-3 in 1935. It's kind of hard to imagine how old that airframe really is.
And for those who are wondering, what's the difference between a C-47 and an R4D? The answer is?
The fact that the Army Air Corps and the Navy would never dare name the exact same airplane with the same name. And so she's actually a C-47B model, but the Navy has their own naming scheme. And so she's an R4D. The R means transport in Navy because the Army Air Corps used C for cargo. And the D at the end stands for Douglas, the manufacturer. And this is actually the fourth type of transport that Douglas had delivered to the Navy over a period of about 12 or 13 years.
There you go. Is there anything on the airplane that would be different for the Navy version than the Army Air Corps?
Well, one of the interesting things, and to be fair, we don't know if this aircraft participated in anti-submarine warfare. It was part of a group where many did, a squadron. So we actually have hard points underneath the belly that carry depth charges. So we've got the hard points, between the nacelles, just before you hit the trailing edge of the wings. And there's a couple of replica depth charges in the cargo hold that we always carry with us for fun. So she's a DC-3 type that can shoot back.
There you go. What was the motivation for the wing to undertake this operation this time around? This is certainly not an inexpensive trip. It is, each of the airplanes have to pay their own way. Plus, if something does break down, you're doing maintenance on the road. But even though it's kind of daunting financially and possibly logistically, there had to be some overriding motivation that said, yes, we want to go this time.
Yeah, it was a culmination of motivations. It was kind of like, the planets were aligning. This is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which means that, really for all purposes, this is the last major anniversary where there will probably be any living, veterans, because you're dealing with the youngest at this point is Navy 97, 98. And in 5 years, 103, that's pushing it. We originally said no early, 2023. We didn't think we can do this. But our wing is actually, we almost doubled in size. We have a lot of new things going on, a lot of maintenance. And honestly, we're very fortunate to have the experience of That's All Brother, that did this 5 years ago and is doing it again. And they have been terrific. And he talked to Andy. Andy's been wonderful in passing on his wisdom, experience. Pilots, we're able to share a lot of resources. One of our senior pilots, Kurt Lewis, we talked to him a little bit, terrific. And so we said, we've got a big hill to climb. We definitely do, but this is the time to do it. And, we wanted to represent the contributions of the U.S. Navy, given that we're a naval aircraft, to kind of expand the story of D-Day a little bit, because that's all brother does such a fantastic job representing the contributions of the Army Air Force at D-Day.
Yes. With the, you mentioned that you doubled the size of the wing. How many members do you have active now? And was this trip sort of a motivator, or what else went into the increased membership? Well,
the Warbird community as a whole, and certainly the CAF, one of the challenges we have is biology. Mm-hmm. We tend to get older with time, not younger. And we were one of those wings that kind of our prime, sort of peaked maybe 15 or 20 years ago in terms of that generation of members. And we had just been atrophying, frankly, just because of, age and biology. So we made a deliberate effort to really go out and recruit, and particularly, younger members. Half of our new members, we have about 60 new members in the last 14 months, and about half of them are under 45, which, is babies. For the Warbird community, so they can learn and hopefully keep this going. So that was part of it. Part of it, Steve, was the fact that we felt we really did need a moonshot for the long-term, sort of sustainability of the DFW wing. And so far, so good. It's really been a wonderful rallying call for the wing, and not just within our wing, but the CAF is a wonderful community. And so we have received so much assistance and help and goodwill from many other wings, many other members. So we're excited.
Good. How many crews are you planning on sending with Ready for Duty?
So we've got a total of 9 pilots, and the way it shakes out is about 4.5, 5 crews. The average crew will spend about 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you on one of those crews?
I am. My job is I'm the official ballast. So I get to ride along in the back, the unpressurized, unheated aft part of the airplane to try to solve problems that don't directly involve mechanical or aviation issues, but all the wonderful real life logistical issues. But I will be for a majority of the trip to assist, and we'll have 5, sometimes 6 people on the airplane for the trip.
So are you going to be on the overwater leg?
I am. Okay. I can't wait to try on my survival suit and splash around in water, learn how to use it, and it will be a bit of a coming to deity moment, I'm sure. I have no doubt.
And again, that is part of the training as well. And is that part of what will happen when you're in Connecticut, or does that training happen before? Okay.
Yeah. The plan is one of those days is to get all of everybody up to a point where we're competent and comfortable with the equipment, the survival equipment, which of course we certainly hope we won't have to use. Right. But you got to be prepared. I mean, one of the great things, of course, this of the DC-3, the Warbird, is a twin engine airplane that's kind of designed to be a single engine airplane if you really needed to be, as long as you don't overload it and are unkind to it. It'll pretty much get you home okay. And one of the keys is crossing, light. You try to cross as light as possible.
Absolutely. What are some of the things? First of all, have you been to Europe before? Have you been to Normandy?
I've been to Europe, but not to Normandy. I have not.
So, aside from and I have asked Andy and Mark the same thing. So, aside from actually participating in the flyovers and things, is there some other things that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so one of the things I learned when I joined the CAF, because I thought the airplanes were neat, and the airplanes are what brought me to the organization. But frankly, it's the people that kept me around for 25 years. I'm fortunate enough to be the wing leader of the DFW wing. It's my turn not to just have fun, but to do all the stuff you have to do that makes this like a job. But I love it. I love the people, and so I'm really excited to get to know the crews of the other airplanes that are going, and everything I've heard, in the UK, Germany, France, the enthusiasts there are just going to go gaga over these airplanes, and I just can't wait to get there and not just let them see them, not just let them touch them, but actually we love having them come inside the airplane and get to smell, feel, the full sensory experience. I'm just looking forward to being kind of an ambassador, and I know all the other crews of the airplanes, are looking forward to doing the same thing.
Exactly. And to help you raise some money, the wing has some commemorative coins that you have available in your online gift shop.
We do. We have a challenge coin. We have a really sexy patch. And if I could just plug the image for a second.
Sure.
Because we're Navy and we're thinking about this, we said, you know, we're a big transport airplane. And yeah, we need to be light, but it seems like a waste if we don't transport other people with us. This would be a big deal. So we learned that the battleship Texas, for instance, was the flagship of the onshore bombardment of Omaha Beach, and Texas is just down the road in Galveston from us. And so we've been talking with them. We formed a partnership, and we'll be bringing some items from the Texas back, you know, to Normandy for the first time in 80 years. So we're kind of symbolically bringing the battleship with us. And there were several other ships, you know, stay tuned, that were at D-Day that we're talking to right now. And so we're trying to create this, you know, virtual flotilla, symbolic flotilla of the ships that were at D-Day and survive today as ship museums in the U.S. So that they can kind of share, you know, the experience.
And you also have a website that goes through, as it says here, Navy to Normandy, and it has some of the details, some of the things that you're taking from the Texas, and more information. In fact, you have a pretty big event coming up this weekend, right? You'll be doing a flyover?
That's right. We're scheduled to go down to Galveston, weather permitting always with these wonderful airplanes. And we have an on-deck ceremony on the battleship Texas, a handover ceremony where they're going to hand us the items that we're bringing. Then we'll be at Galveston Airport, Shoals International Airport is the official name, to do some rides. So we're looking forward to it. And yeah, we're going to, of course, fly over the ship and kind of, you know, sort of have a look up, look down naval moment, World War II naval moment.
I'm sure that is going to be a very special day.
Yeah,
when you think about being on the deck of the Texas and watching the R4D fly over, or vice versa, very, very emotional.
Yeah, no, it'll be terrific, and you know, I think it's the future, frankly, for what we all have to do as far as all of the museums working together, you know, to really make sure that the stories that we represent and the legacies represent, you know, are told and kind of cut through the white noise of a busy world.
Definitely. Chris, thanks for joining us. And I know you're going to stick around for the Q&A session at the end, but because we looked at That's All Brother and the paratroopers going out the back door, this time we're going to have a similar view of paratroopers going out the door, but this time from the inside. Blaine Seabold from CAF was strapped inside the R4D a little while ago, and he got some great footage. So let's take a look.
Well, several of them. Yeah. All right, guys. Ready? Look formal. Yeah. Are we ready? Yeah. Let's go. On this side, right?
Here you go. Look at that there. Raise your hand. Well, they certainly are enthusiastic. They're jumping out of the airplane. Again, from the inside of the R4D. Those of you who've not been or have had the privilege of being able to ride in the rear end of a C-47 or a DC-3, you don't realize how loud it is until you're actually in there. And the noise that you hear there with the door open is a little louder than it would be in your Southwest 737, that's for sure. Well, joining us now in just a moment, Kurt Lewis and Mindy Russell. Checking on in. And you are you're the new kids on the block. Yeah, so joining up with all the fun that's going to take off in just about a month. Mindy, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with CAF and what your role is with That's All Brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I joined the Central Texas Wing Commemorative Air Force just about 2.5 years ago because, like a lot of other people, I loved airplanes, love history. It kind of seems like why we all walk in the door. Didn't really know where my place was, though, in the wing, and just kind of tried a little bit of everything. For the past couple of years, I've been able to travel quite a bit with That's All Brother. Literally took me coast to coast last year from Jersey to Chino, California, points in between. And eventually worked my way up and learned everything I could and became a crew chief last August on That's All Brother.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kurt, for those who don't know Kurt, I don't know that is there anything in the inventory you haven't flown?
Oh, there's always stuff I haven't flown, but I'm always looking for what's next, and it seems like I can always find just a little bit more time in my schedule to help educate on and inspire through our huge fleet. So yeah, I'm lucky to get quite a few of our airplanes. That's true.
Yeah. What was your motivation for becoming a member?
You know, I grew up with my dad and family flying airplanes on the weekends, and they were taking me to air shows and events like the CAF does, you know, fly-ins and airplane tours. And I was always wondering, how do I get to do that? You know, how does that guy get to sit in that seat where he is right there? And I was lucky enough just to, as I was growing up in my flying career, do a lot of tailwheel flying, which helps, you know, is an important skill to have as a Warbird pilot. And then through some networking and really generous people, was kind of told to join the CAF in 2013, and I just never left. So, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. So proud lifetime members.
There we go. I'm glad to have both of you with us. And as Chris mentioned in our last segment, CAF, like many organizations, you get to a point where the membership starts to get a little older, and it's sometimes hard to bring younger faces in. And so it's very encouraging to see younger faces on our screen tonight, and glad to hear your motivations for becoming part of CAF. And Kurt, because that is a question that many people ask when they're at an air show and they see a Mustang fly by. It's like, wow, I'm a pilot, but how can I ever do that? What kind of advice would you have for an aspiring pilot who's coming up and eventually wants maybe not a Mustang, but even some of the trainers or the twins, even the DC-3s?
Yeah, I'm going to steal my favorite line from David Oliver, who's our current COO of the CAF, and he says you just have to show up, and that's true. Like just about everybody has said, you come for the airplanes, but stay for the people. A lot of it is just showing that you have heart and passion, and that you're here for the right reasons. You know, you don't just want to get to show about the airplanes on the weekend. You want to help share and preserve them for future generations to learn from. And through showing up, if you don't have the skills that we're looking for in a pilot right away, you can meet the people that can help you attain those skills or give you advice and help you reach those goals to put yourself in the right place for when a co-pilot seat opens up on the DC-3 to fly to Europe. So it's a little bit of right place, right time, and you just got to show up. So.
There you go. And Mindy, you're not a pilot, or
No.
No, okay, and not a problem, because that is another aspect of CAF that I think gets overlooked, is that there's a need for folks who may not be in the cockpit, but who want to preserve and keep these airplanes flying. And so that role is equally as important as the people who get to fly.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that delayed me joining the CAF, is because I wasn't a pilot, I wasn't a mechanic, and I wasn't sure what I had to offer to the organization. And when I finally got the courage to walk through those hangar doors, just putting my head down, working, learning everything, I learned all I needed was an open mind, a willingness to learn, and a great attitude. Just, those three things and the opportunities that come your way. Like Kurt said, if you show up, I've done things I never would have imagined I would ever be doing. So don't let not being a pilot or mechanic stop you. Come out and see us.
That's right. Like you said, you went through the door the first time, got your courage, walked through the door, said, put me to work, and now you're going to Europe with That's All Brother. I mean,
yeah, it's an amazing turn of events, and you show up, and the opportunities that I've had over the past couple of years traveling with That's All Brother, and even some other planes in our wing. Like I said, I never would have imagined, and the people I've met, that's why I keep coming back.
Good. And are you part of the crew that's going to make the Atlantic crossing?
Yes, I'm actually slated to be the crew chief that takes it from Texas over to England.
Wow. Okay. It'll be a long, noisy ride.
Yes, it will.
And Kurt, we started out, before we came on the air about 90 minutes ago, we were talking about it. You hadn't decided which airplane you were going to fly, and I think you were taking bids from either That's All Brother or R4D to see who had the best swag package.
Yeah, they're fighting over me, and the schedule changes a little bit every time I see it. But as of now, I think it's Mindy and I working together to get the airplane over to Europe, or That's All Brother, getting to take That's All Brother from Texas into England, and then do a little bit of flying and ready for duty while we're over there, and then getting to bring ready for duty back westbound home. So honored to get to fly both airplanes. Yep.
Best of both worlds, that's for sure. Anything that you really, obviously the ceremonies, everything that's going on, but something that you hope to take away when you're over there, Mindy?
I've never been to Europe. I've been to Canada and the Bahamas, so That's All Brother has allowed me to experience a lot of firsts over the past couple of years, and this is going to be another one. My goal is to take each day and enjoy it, and live through that day, so that I look back later, it's like, wow, I was in Greenland, or I did this, and hopefully whet the appetite to go back on my own and explore some more.
Excellent. Kurt, you're an airline pilot, and you fly some international routes, so you've been to Europe, you've been around, but there must be something that you're looking forward to with this trip.
Yeah, I've seen pretty much all these places from 35,000 feet, but I don't get to take the 767 to Narsarsuaq. I'm still learning how to pronounce that. I think I'll have it figured out by the time we get back, but don't get to do that. Kind of a hallowed place. I just read Fate as the Hunter for the 4th time to kind of prepare myself mentally for, the kind of stuff that we might encounter with much more reliable equipment, fortunately. But getting to see all this stuff from a lower level and kind of hang out in some of that hallowed airspace that made World War II happen will be pretty special. Like Mindy said, we're going to be so busy while we're over there. I think we're all going to be focusing on just slowing down and making sure we enjoy the moment. But I have a feeling that we're going to be so task saturated, it's not really going to set in what we did until we get home, which seems to happen with a lot of these high profile events we take these Warbirds to. We're busy enough and spend so much energy trying to do it right that, it's not until the long cruise home where you really realize what you just did. So.
There you go. All right, well, let's invite Andy and Mark and Chris back in. And we've got a couple of questions that we've gathered during the hour, and take some time before we sign off to go ahead and get those answered. Let's see. Here's the first one. Is there any special kind of training you need to go through to be a pilot for paratroopers? Or is that more on the paratroopers and the jump master, and the pilots are just flying a course?
There still is specific training we do for that, both because typically you're not just dropping jumpers, but we'll be dropping jumpers in formation with other airplanes. So knowing, and if you look at a bunch of DC-3s or C-47s doing drops, you'll see they're staggered in a certain way. And that's because typically the door, on almost all of them, the door is on the left. And that's so that, each trailing ship can see people coming out of the one ahead of it. So that's a big part of it. So learning how to fly formation safely, but there is definitely a specific jump specific training. Because if you don't do it right, and you're not at a very high altitude, so you've got to get it done right. If you get the plane too slow at that low of an altitude, with the people coming out the door and getting all the way to the back of the plane, the results would not be pretty.
Is there a major shift in the? Do you have to trim the airplane as they're going out, or does it kind of stabilize?
Definitely, it does. It feels like a bunch of elephants walking in the back, kind of. So you'll feel the yoke shake as each, and you're just feeling the buffet kind of each jumper going out the door. But yes, it definitely, you're taking, depending on how many jumpers you have in the back, thousands of pounds out of the back of the airplane. But the people we jump with are very professional, and they go out in a very sequenced, orderly fashion, just like you saw in that video. And so definitely the plane now is a lot more nose heavy, so you'll retrim right after that happens. But the funny thing about the C-47 is, if one person gets up and walks back and forth through the airplane, you have to retrim it. And that's like one of the way we torture like new co-pilots, is we'll basically like run to the back of the plane, forward and back to the front, and that kind of stuff. So it's the tricks we play.
There you go. Chris, I noticed in the R4D video, as they were climbing in, I saw it looked like some padding or something along the door. And when we watched the paratroopers get out of That's All Brother, you see the static lines going back on the fuselage. How do you keep all that from damaging the paint or the aircraft, for that matter?
You're talking about the outside paint.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Those lines go out there and they bang around a little bit, and you try to get them in as soon as you can. It's just part of the wear and tear. And they weren't really worried about the paint when they figured out these procedures, so, especially with flak going off around. But so there is a little bit of rubbing and things like that. But the trick is the pilots, as long as none of the rigging ends up going near that elevator and that control surface, because that's what can get you in trouble, you're okay. But they're tough airplanes, though, those the C-47. So we've occasionally, had to touch up a little spot with some whiteout. We get to use whiteout when we have a little scuff, but they're very minor.
Hey, Steve, if you don't mind me jumping in here, I got a comment that kind of related to that. So what most people don't realize is when he's talking about bags, what that means. So the parachute is in a bag at the end of what's called the static line. And the static line is attached to an anchor line in the airplane. And when the jumpers go out, the bag stays with the airplane. So at the end of that static line, you got a long line, and then there's a bag floating out there. So now you put 20 jumpers out, and you've got these bags out there, and guess who has to pull them in? The crew chief. Exactly. So probably the hardest part of that job is trying to drag those bags in against the airflow, because they do not want to come in. So it's just a little thing that is part of the job that nobody really knows about. So there we go.
Flying to 20 kites in hurricane force winds is exactly what Mark's on.
Yeah. All right, this question is from Stefan, and I think it might be a pretty obvious question for all of you, but we'll ask it anyway. But will flying this 80th anniversary mission be the pinnacle of your flying experience so far, or do you have something in your logbook that tops that?
I don't know. I'd say this would be hard to top. Getting to fly these airplanes back and forth across the ocean. We all hope we can do it on the 85th anniversary and the 90th anniversary and the 100th anniversary, but the reality is these airplanes won't be able to do this forever. So every time we fly these airplanes, we treasure and appreciate it. So.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm just going to say, and this is on behalf of Andy too, from an operational logistical point of view, it's hard to imagine, first of all, I'm amazed he's going through it twice, but it's hard to imagine something that could be more complicated, more fluid, have more moving parts. It would be inhuman, I think, if it was anything that was, more complicated. So at least for me, this, I hope this is the pinnacle, because it was going to sleep a long time afterwards, I think.
I would say definitely. I mean, anytime we have the ability to educate, inspire, and honor, and that's why we're going. We're going there to honor a lot of people who gave everything so that we could live a certain way that we get to enjoy today. And they fought for freedom, and many made it home, but many didn't. And that's ultimately what's driving us to go. And really, anytime we have the opportunity to honor the people who did that for us, it's impossible to beat.
There you go. Any final thoughts, Mark, from you?
Yeah, actually, let me excuse me. Kind of to pile on what Andy just said. So, I crew chief with Andy when we flew the primary jump, the cross channel jump last time, and he and I and Doug Rosendahl were talking as we were approaching the coast, talking about what it was like for these, because everybody on those airplanes were kids, and all of these 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. What they, what it was like for them, and how just a great experience it was to honor that, because that was, it's, the airplanes are great. I love airplanes, but to me, it's about the people and honoring what they did, 80 years ago.
I like to say it's hard enough to do in peacetime when nobody's shooting at us. It really puts into perspective what it's been like back then.
Yeah. And Mark, you may know Darren. I just got the first name here, but he's going to be one of the jump masters for the events with the Airborne Battalion, and he just wanted to pass along his thanks to you and all the members of the crews that helped make the operation happen. And echoing the same words, we're one big team to help make sure we honor those who came before us and do it safely. Airborne all the way. All right.
There you go.
So thank you, Darren. Mindy, I'm going to end with you. Any final thoughts before we wrap up tonight?
No. I saw this was on the radar last year when it was announced, and in the back of my head, I was thinking, wow, what an amazing opportunity for any crew member to be a part of, and to be chosen as one of the crew members to continue our mission, educate, honor, inspire, and to be part of taking this plane back to Europe for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. I'd have to say it's going to be the pinnacle of my flying career, at least with the Central Texas Wing thus far in the Commemorative Air Force, and I'm really looking forward to it.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you all for being a part of the show tonight. Just one more time, the two websites that are out there that we want you to go check out. They are available from the CAF main website, commemorativeairforce.org. Check it out. You can follow the missions as the airplanes make their way across the Atlantic and participate in the 80th anniversary celebrations for the anniversary of D-Day. And that's going to wrap up tonight's show. Remember to like and share our WarbirdTube videos, and please subscribe and hit that bell icon on YouTube, and you'll find out when our new episodes are available. So, as always, we value your input. If you have any feedback on this or any of our episodes, or if you have an idea for a future topic, please send Leah Block an email at media@cafhq.org. Until next time, I'm Steve Buss. Have a great night.